Hello friends and welcome back. Welcome back to part 5 of I've Never Had a Boyfriend. Today we're going to talk about being in love, and I've never really admitted this on my channel before because I felt I couldn't really admit this without admitting that I'd never had a relationship. So it's something that I never really talked about. So I'm going to have a go at talking about it today. This video is for anyone that's never been in love. And obviously so much of culture is designed around being in love, finding the one, finding your partner, finding happiness. It's only now where I feel kind of comfortable to talk about the fact that I've never been in love. All the times I thought that I was in love when I was younger, I now realise I probably wasn't. I now realise it was probably just feelings about certain people. So I thought I would talk about that today. I can obviously have a stab at what I think the male wound is. Obviously I'm not a male, but I imagine that the male wound is being successful. For a man, this continual strive to be successful, to make money, to somehow prove himself to the world. I imagine the male wound is, am I successful enough? Am I doing enough? But on the flip side, I, as a female, 100% know that the female wound is being chosen. For a woman, your whole life and from birth, basically, you're brought up and you're socialized with this belief that you need to be chosen. You need a man. If you're obviously straight, you need a man to pick you. You need to be chosen. You need someone to go down on one knee and pick you for you to be whole, for you to be complete, for you to be a success in the world. You need to be chosen. None of your academic achievements or any of the businesses you create will matter. In society's eyes, the only thing that sadly matters is being chosen by a man. And this is obviously a big wound for me, and it's something that constantly triggers me. It triggers me because I haven't been chosen. There's things about my life I've never admitted on camera because they're too painful. I'm gonna try and do it now. I've never had a Valentine's card before. I've never had a man take me out for a Valentine's dinner. I've never had a man buy me a bunch of flowers. I've never had a man take me out to dinner. I've never had a man treat me with respect as a female. I've never had that from a man. I've never had a man be nice to me. I've only encountered men that were horrible to me and men that weren't very nice to me. And that's largely the reason why I decided to become celibate all those years ago, is because I knew something wasn't right and something wasn't working. And it's kind of been my life's mission to work out why I've never been chosen, why I've never been wanted by a man, and really how not being loved by a man deeply affects a woman's psyche and how she goes into the world, how she sees herself. And definitely recently, I've had to think to myself, okay, you're at a crossroads now. You can either flip into being mean and being angry and being bitter about not being chosen, or you can try and flip that emotion and make something better out of your life. Take the pain and make something better. I generally don't want to be one of those people that I see in comment sections that are still waiting for their husband. They're still waiting for their husband to give them the life that they want. They're still waiting for a man to give them the abundant life they want. They still believe that they're going to have a soft life. They still believe that in marrying a man, all their problems will be solved. And really, I think if you do have a provider male, I don't think I don't think life is as rosy as these people make out. It is almost like a gilded cage, and I think sometimes a lot of these women are trapped. They are trapped by the gilded cage. They're trapped by the gilded cage of, on the surface, it seems like they have a perfect life because they don't have to go to work. In some ways, their life is pretty clipped. Their life is clipped. They can't really do what they want. It's all about the man, because if you want a man like that, they want a certain type of woman. And let's be honest, an extremely successful man wants a certain type of woman. And I've always known I am not that type of woman that a successful man wants. I'm too outspoken, I'm too ambitious, and the dynamic wouldn't work. I've always known if I wanted an abundant life, it's something that I'm going to have to create for myself. I think the main way it affects you is that I've never really had anyone there. I've had to become hyper independent to cope with the lack of not being chosen by a man. Even simple things such as when I'm on my period, I've never had a man to just go to the shops and buy me a bar of chocolate or do anything to make me feel better. It's always me having to self-soothe myself, having to get the hot water bottle myself, and having to self-soothe and be independent. And I know that my hyper independence is because I haven't been chosen. Because I haven't been chosen, I've had to ramp it up 10x and be the man and the woman. That's simply because I've never been chosen. That's why I chose celibacy and becoming celibate, because I realized the mistakes I made in my 20s and I did not want to repeat those mistakes in my 30s. I'd done all my learning, I'd done all my growing in my 20s, and then when I got to my 30s, I realized I took on enough data points. This is how men work. And in my 30s, I set boundaries of, if a man can't take me out to dinner, then I'm not interested. If a man doesn't want to travel to see me, I'm not interested. And they are my boundaries. And I was thinking about my other video I did of the writer man, and I was thinking how, in effect, this man, he wasn't even a 50-50 man. He was a 75-25 man. He wanted me to do all the running, me to come over to him. It's almost now that men no longer see women as the prize, so they're treating women in a mean way and testing women. For some reason, men feel, obviously not all men, that they have to test women. And I didn't want to go through all the hoops of being tested by this man. And he was being, think about it, he was being a 75-25 man. If we went out, would this man have paid for my dinner? Probably not. I think he was a 75-25 man. I don't know. I can only speak from my experience. I don't know about, obviously, the male experience of not being in love. It affects a woman pretty deeply if she's never been loved, never been treated correctly by a man. And people always say it's your fault. You're attracting all these toxic men. But how can you say that when it's literally a picture of me online and a few words? How can that be the cause of all these men that I've attracted? That there's nothing for them to go on. All they have to go on is a picture and some words. So how can you say that I've attracted all these toxic men? When really I haven't. It's just been luck of the draw that I've met these kind of men that are unhealed and won't take me out on a date. I'm going to be a bit controversial. I watched the Oprah interview with Esther Perel about dating, and I felt like some of Esther's takes wouldn't really work in the real world. I feel that what you see a lot on the internet is good meaning people coming up with suggestions, but with respect, they're not in the dating game. They haven't dated. They don't know what dating is like. They're married and they're talking about dating from an outside point of view. And I'm sorry, you're not going to get a man from Tinder, meet you in a group of friends and go on a date with you. That was one of her suggestions, was go on like a friend date, and if the man likes your friends, then he's a good match. But that's not going to happen in the real world. I know what it's like in the real world, but from watching other women talk about this online, getting a man to take you out on a date is hard enough. If you come up with the option of hanging out with your friends, that's going to scare a man off. That is completely going to scare a man off, asking to hang out with your friends. And also, where's the romance for that? Where's the romance for that in just having a little friend date with all your friends? I get that if you're part of an existing friendship group, yeah, that would work as a way to meet people. But just dropping me into a random group with people I don't know and their friends, I know I'm not going to perform well at that. I am not going to perform well, not just because I have autistic tendencies, but I know I'm not going to perform well in that situation. Sometimes I feel when people give advice on the internet, even if they're giving it from a well-meaning place, I don't think it's going to work in the real world. She came up with this metaphor of being in a restaurant, of if you went to a bad restaurant and you ate a bad meal, you wouldn't go back to that restaurant. You would simply go to another restaurant. So the metaphor she was obviously making was, just because you had one Tinder date doesn't mean you should stop dating at all. But I don't think what she realizes is that some people have been rejected maybe 200, 300 times. If you've got to my stage of life where you are continually rejected, all you've had your whole life is the McDonald's experience for men. You haven't had a man that's bought you flowers. You haven't had a man that's taken you out to dinner. What is that going to make you do? It's going to make you close up, and it's going to make you not want to date again. So I didn't really like her analogy of if you went to a restaurant and had a bad meal, you wouldn't go there again, because I don't think she understands, because obviously she's been married a long time. I don't think she understands that the average person, aged 20 to 30, has been rejected, continually rejected, had bad experiences with men or women. And for a lot of people, they don't want to put themselves out there again. They don't want to go through the rejection again. And I made that story time about one man. But what I didn't tell you was that there were two other men before that had had this same behavior. I can't make a video every time I have a bad encounter with someone online. I chose that one because he was the worst. I can't just keep making these videos every time I get this kind of experience, and then people will gaslight me and say I'm the issue. But if these men are messaging me on Tinder, how am I attracting bad men when it's literally just pictures and a bio? And that's a lot of a reason why people haven't been in love. They've been rejected so much. I wouldn't even like to put a finger on how many times I've been rejected. I reckon I've probably been rejected, I want to say like 300 times. That's why when you look at my channel, I go on a date every 18 months, every 2 years I go on a date. It's because when you've continually been rejected, I know what it's like, and people don't want to put themselves out there. People are like, oh, it just takes one date. That's why people don't put themselves out there. They don't want that. If they've only had the McDonald's experience, I feel like I've had the McDonald's experience from men. I've never had 5-star treatment from men. I've never had a man generally want to do something for me out of the goodness of their heart, basically. I've always envied those women that can get men to do stuff for free. Like there's someone I know, she has a male friend that it's completely platonic, and say like her sink breaks, she like calls him, immediately he comes round. If like she gets a flat tire, he will drive for an hour to fix her tire. And yeah, I obviously think he probably does like her on some level and she doesn't like him and has made that clear. But I've never had a man, platonic or in a romantic sense, do anything nice for me, do anything nice for me. I've only had the McDonald's experience from men, of men not wanting to take me out on a date, men only wanting to have sex with me. That's why I became celibate. That's why I did my 30s. I looked at every bad decision that I'd ever made and I thought, I'm not doing that again. I'm not doing that again, not doing that again, not doing that again. That's what your 30s are for. It's from not repeating the mistakes in your 20s. 20s are for making money, and then in your 30s, you can do what you want. So how can we end this? So if you haven't been in love, I'm not going to gaslight you and say your partner's coming. I don't want you to be this type of person that I've been, that is just addicted to online tarot readings, trying to work out your situationship from an online tarot reading. I don't want you to be the person that says, it's all in divine timing, God's going to send my partner, God's going to send the one. That's not a healthy way to live. That is not a healthy way to live, to be in this perpetual waiting cycle of a man to change your life. The only person that can change your life is you. It's not going to be in the hands of another person. You have to create your own destiny. You can't be sitting praying to God for a man to change your life. If you're not happy with your life, sadly, it's only you that's going to be the one to change it. And I'm not going to sit and gaslight you and give you a load of platitudes like every pot has a lid, because I don't think that's a healthy way to live. That's not a healthy way to live, just continually waiting for this person to show up. And if you're a bit older like me, I've had to really go inward and think, what now? What now if I'm not going to be married? If I'm not going to have a baby? What now? I don't want to become bitter because I didn't get what I wanted. I don't want to turn into a bitter, mean person because I didn't get what I wanted. I didn't get what I wanted out of life. In the same way that people just blame incels for like shooting up schools, I just see it as they have pain inside them that they don't know what to do with. It's the same for me. I've had to think, what do I do next if I don't get what I want? How is my life going to look? Am I going to be one of those people that goes into my 40s and travels a lot and has these amazing experiences? I think that's how I want my life to be. I want to make a lot of money so that I can travel, I can see the world, and that's what I want to do now. I want to take the pain that I've experienced and turn it into something positive. In my life. Just several things. Just watching that interview. I know Esther means well, but I just felt you couldn't apply that to real life dating at all, because that's not how the current world is. Maybe I'll dive more into this if this video does well. We shall see. As always, thanks for watching. Love you guys. Take care.